In the heart of Eastern Europe, beyond the Carpathian Mountains, lies a land wrapped in mist and myth, Romania, a country famous for its ancient castles, haunted forests, and something far more terrifying than Dracula himself, an ancient spirit, a restless force, a being that defies the finality of death. They call it the Strigoi. Chapter 1, The Birth of the Undead. Sound of wind picking up, echoing through trees. Centuries before the world heard of vampires through Bram Stoker's Dracula, villagers across Romania whispered of something far older and far more personal. The Strigoi is not just a bloodsucker, it is the soul of the dead, returned to torment the living. A malevolent spirit that rises from the grave, not always with a body, but always with a thirst. Not for blood alone, but for life. Cut to eerie silence, soft voice. A Strigoi may have once been a neighbor, a brother, a child. Someone who died violently, or someone cursed, or someone simply different. They believed the seventh child in a family, especially if born on a cursed night, such as during a blood moon, might carry the seed of Strigoi from birth. Even in life, these people were feared, and in death, they were watched carefully, because death for a Strigoi is just the beginning. Signs of the comeback. Soft whispers layered with rustling leaves. The villagers knew the signs. The animals grew restless, milk soured without reason. The firewood refused to burn, and at night the air turned heavy. People dreamed of shadows pressing on their chests. Some even woke up unable to breathe, paralyzed, their hearts pounding. The old women of the village would nod solemnly and whisper, "He has returned." The Strigoi had come back, to haunt, to drain, to punish. Chapter 3, The Unholy Burial, drums in the distance growing louder. You see, burial in Romanian folklore wasn't just about laying someone to rest. It was a ritual of protection. Bury a person incorrectly and you risk unleashing a Strigoi. If someone died suddenly, without confession, without peace, there was fear. If they died during a thunderstorm, if animals refused to approach the coffin, or if the corpse showed no signs of decay after 3 days, the villagers acted. Sound of shovels, dirt being moved, graves were dug up, bodies examined. If the corpse looked too fresh, if its hair or nails had grown, if blood lingered around the mouth, they knew what had to be done. They would pierce the chest with an iron stake, cut off the head, burn the remains, and scatter the ashes at the crossroads. It was brutal, but it was the only way. To stop the Strigoi, villagers across Romania weren't powerless. They had rituals. They had protection. Because once a Strigoi was suspected in the area, no one slept peacefully. Mothers tied red threads around their children's wrists. Garlic was hung above every door and window. Salt was sprinkled across the thresholds. And church bells rang at odd hours to keep the spirits confused. The most sacred protection? A tiny silver cross hidden inside the pillow of every bed. Because at night, the Strigoi came hunting. Soft knock, silence, then sudden wind gust. It could slip through a crack in the wall. It could ride the cold mist. It didn't need permission to enter. Only protection kept you alive until sunrise. Chapter 5, Real Stories from Real Villages. Switch to slower pace, soft piano in background. In the small village of Capenini Pamenteni, an old grave was opened in 1902. A man had died, but his family claimed he visited them each night after his burial. They said he stood at the foot of the bed, silent, watching. Their livestock died. Children fell ill. The villagers, terrified, dug up the grave. What they found shocked them. The body was still fresh. Its lips were red with blood. The priests refused to intervene, so the villagers did what they knew. They cut the corpse, burned the heart, and after that night, no one saw the man again. Voice shifts, firm and chilling. It's not just one village. Similar reports have been documented across Dolge, Muromeric, and Vistrokanasket counties for centuries. Modern historians call it mass hysteria. But the villagers, they just call it wisdom. Chapter 6, Strigoi versus Vampire. Change in tone, analytical, comparing visuals on screen. The Strigoi is older than Dracula. In fact, many believe that Bram Stoker's legendary vampire was based not on Vlad the Impaler alone, but on these rural whispers from deep within Romania. The modern vampire is elegant, seductive, even romanticized. But the Strigoi, it is feral. It is vile. It crawls. It moans. It screams with voices that echo through forests and fields. Clips of classic vampire movies flashing briefly. Hollywood made vampires look beautiful, but Romanian folklore never did. The Strigoi remains what it always was, a corpse that hates the living. Chapter 7, The Psychology of Fear. Background sound fades, replaced with a soft heartbeat. So why do people still believe? Why does the fear remain even today? Some say it's a way to explain death when science fails, when a young person dies without warning, when families lose sleep from grief and sorrow. The Strigoi becomes the shape of that pain. Voice softens, but perhaps the legend goes deeper. It's not just about death, it's about what we leave unresolved. Anger, guilt, betrayal. A soul burdened with unfinished business is a soul that does not rest, and in Romanian belief, a soul that does not rest walks. Chapter 8, Final Warnings. Music returns slowly, distant chants in background. Even today, some Romanian villages perform ancient rituals when someone dies. Coins are placed on the eyes. The body is washed with blessed water. Graves are watched for 3 nights. Because even now, no one takes the risk. They may live with phones, cars, and internet, but they haven't forgotten what the old ones whispered. Don't mock the dead, or they'll come for you. Final pause dramatic, so if you ever visit a Romanian village and the air grows cold, if you hear footsteps outside, but no one is there, remember, the Strigoi does not knock. It enters. Legends like the Strigoi don't fade away, they evolve. They hide beneath new shapes, new names, but the fear remains. Modern Romania might be covered in highways, skyscrapers, and neon lights, but in the deep woods, in remote villages where the stars still rule the night, people remember. Cut to an old woman lighting a candle in a darkened home. They pass on the warnings to their children. They whisper blessings over the doors. They bury their dead with care, because some stories aren't just stories. Chapter 10, Science, Skepticism, and the Supernatural Tone Shifts, narrator contemplative, quiet piano and background. Skeptics argue, there is no Strigoi, there never was. Just superstition born of isolation and fear of death. Psychologists explain the chest pressure at night as sleep paralysis, the shadowy visitor as a neurological illusion. Historians document the rituals as echoes of a pre-Christian world, desperate to make sense of mortality, and they may be right. Pause, let the silence sit, but that doesn't matter to the villager who feels his breath stop at midnight, or the farmer who finds his livestock drained without blood, or the family that wakes up each morning colder, more exhausted, more afraid. Logic does not erase the feeling of being watched. Chapter 11, A Warning from the Dead. Music swells, adding slow percussion, steady and ominous. The Strigoi doesn't demand belief, it demands respect. It reminds us that some things can't be explained, that the world is not fully mapped, that between life and death there might be a door. Soft thunder rolls, then fades, and sometimes the dead don't knock, they just step through. Chapter 12, Final Thoughts. Slow piano continues, fading into silence as narrator speaks. So what do we do with legends like this? We listen. not to believe blindly, not to fear irrationally, but to remember that fear has always been part of who we are. We create stories to survive the night, and whether or not the Strigoi is real, it has already won. Because it lives in the stories, it lives in the fear, it lives in you. Final dramatic whisper, don't forget to check your window tonight.